All right, so welcome to our end of summary unit. Guys, y'all already know that I'm not there today, so we're going to do our end of summary page through this PowerPoint video. So in your notebook, go ahead and get to a fresh page. Go ahead and write down right there, end of summary, unit 2, place value. So now let's go ahead and start looking at what we're going to be reviewing. I have everything broken down just like we did the last time. So let's go to our first. So now we're going to be looking at the definition of place value. And so place value is the position or place of a digit in a number. You remember each digit in a number has its own value. And so like if we're looking at this example right here, 2,216. Well, that underlined 2 has a value of 200. If you writing the value of that 2 in underline 2 in standard form, 200s. So we have that value in word notation, 200. We have it in word form, and then 2 times 100, we have that in expanded notation. So go ahead and get that definition written down in your notebook and make sure you have that Roman numeral number 1. Now, let's go to our next Roman numeral. Remember, skip a line, and then we're going to be going to the next Roman numeral. So the next thing we talked about was place value periods. Make sure you keep your notes nice and neat. This is going to be taking a lot of space. I want to make sure that you have each one of these broken down the way that you see I have this on this PowerPoint. And so far, we have studied 4 place value periods so far. You remember each period has hundreds, tens, and ones, and all of the periods are separated by a comma. So now let's look at and let's investigate our first period. So our first period is the ones period. This is where we have 3-digit, 2-digit, and 1-digit numbers. They all are housed or they all live in the ones period. And remember that any number in the ones period is pronounced by number name only. And let me fix that right there because I forgot to put number name. So number name only. And you remember any number you have in the ones period, you remember you just say the number name. Like our example here, 387. The only thing you say is 387. And make sure you have this example in your notebook, like I said, because remember, we're trying to build those reference points and we're trying to build those things that you can refer back to in your notebook. And like I said, we're learning how to make a study sheet so you can learn how to review and how to study better. Now, our next period is the thousands period. Here, we're looking at 6, 5, and 4-digit numbers. These are all housed or they all live in the thousand period. Any number in the thousand period is pronounced by number name, then the period name. So in our example, 867, well, you're going to say 867,000 because remember that that number is in the thousands period. 867,000. Remember, you say the number name, then you say the period name. Now, what I want you to do is with the sub that's there, I want you to stand up and I want you to practice saying that real quick. 867,000. I want to make sure that y'all said that right along with me. Now, let's go try our next period. Now, our next period is the good old millions period. Now, this is where you're going to have your 9, 8, and 7-digit numbers. They're all going to be housed in the millions period. And you remember, just like in the thousands period, Any number in the millions period is pronounced by its number name, then the period name. So the first thing you say is you say the number name, 336, then you say the period, million. Just like I have over here, 336 million. I said the number name, then I said the name of the period. Again, I want y'all to be doing the same thing, up on your feet, and I want y'all to practice saying that number name. Number name, period. 336 million. Now let's go to our last place value period, or our next place value period. Now our next place value period, and remember, we're going to be stretching this period out a little bit later, but this is all that we're going to be concerned about right now. Our next period is the billions period. This is where we have our 12, 11, and 10-digit numbers. They're all going to be in the billions period. Same thing like the thousands, same thing like the millions. Any number in the billions period is pronounced by number name, then the period that it lives in, or the period name. Again, on your feet. Number name, 423 billion. Now, y'all go with it. 423 billion. And making sure that you are having this all nice, neat, and organized in your notebook. Don't have everything jumbled up all together, because I am going to be checking notebooks on Monday. Now, we finished talking about periods, and now we're going to go to our next Roman numeral. Well, the next thing we're going to be talking about is word form. And this is pronouncing and writing the number in words. We have our rules for every time we want to put a number in word form. We make a place value chart. Once we make our place value chart and we put our number on the place value chart, we say the number name, then we say the name of the period. And remember, in the ones period, you only say the number name, not the period. And so we have this example here. Make sure you have this place value chart drawn in your notebook. You say 926,789,211. And so now, excuse me, now we're going to do one together. We have our rules, we have the place value chart, and so let's see, I'm going to go with green. Yeah, let me go with some green here. So I'm going to say the number name first. This is 24 million, comma, 563. So 560. And where's 563 at? Thousand. So 563,000, comma. Now we're in the ones period. Remember, we say the number name, not the period. So 109. I don't know why I put that little thing right there. Box our answer. Holy smoke, that is a horrible looking box so far. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Now, let's go to our next Roman numeral. So we've talked about place value periods. We talked about word form. And so now next we're going to be talking about word notation. You remember, word notation is just the digit and the value of that place written in words. And so we have this example here. We have 300,000, 2 ten thousands, four thousands, three hundreds, nine tens, and one one. And now there is a relationship between word notation and expanded notation. Remember what we talked about earlier in class is that since we have a number in standard form next to a number written in words, remember that's the same thing as multiplying by, which is one of the reasons why word notation and expanded notation are related. And we're going to be looking at that as we kind of spiral back as we go forward in some of our lessons. So be looking for that in some of the spiral back lessons that we're going to be doing next week. So here's an example that we're going to be working out together. I'm still going to keep it with my good color green. So we have our place value chart drawn. And so we have two 10,000s, comma, 4,000s, comma, 800s, comma, 8 tens, 3 ones. So then that's just another example of word notation. All right, guys, and let's go ahead and continue. So now our next Roman numeral is Roman numeral 5. Standard form. It's just writing the digits of a number. So our example is 23,408. So first thing we do, we make our place value chart. So we see that we have our thousands period, and since we have 408 and nothing behind it, we know that we have our ones period. So I'm going to make my thousands, comma, then I'm going to make my ones period. Now to kind of differentiate a little bit, I'm going to change this color so y'all can see my number on here nice and clear. 23. So it's not saying 230, it's saying 23. So I'm going to put 23 right here. Let me redo that. Still going with yellow. So 23,408. And this is that number in standard form. And then all thing I'm going to do is just write the number off the place value chart. So 23,408. And then I box it. Now, the next thing we're going to be looking at is expanded form. So, standard form is the number broken down by the value of each digit. And the golden rule, always make a place value chart. So we have the same number that we had in the last example. We're just going to put that number into expanded form. So 200,000, oh, that's 20,000. So 20,000 plus 4,000 plus 800 plus 80 plus 3. Then you equal everything out, 24,883. Now, let's go to our next example. And now we're going to be looking at expanded notation. This is going to be a lot of to write. I want to make sure you have all of this in your notebook because this is going to be very important for you to have anytime you work with expanded notation. And right here I have the value of each place that we've worked with so far. And remember, expanded notation is that the digit in a place multiplied by the value of that place. And so let's go ahead and look at an example. So we have the number 24,563,109. And remember, when we go from expanded notation, we can go right into expanded form, always trying to make sure that we have that extra practice. So 2 times 10 million. Uh-oh. There we go. Messed that up a little bit. Equals 20 million. Then 4 times 1 million. Next is going to be 5 times 100,000. You see I'm going from expanded notation right to expanded form. Then 6 times 10,000 equals 60,000. Keeping everything lined up from expanded notation right to expanded form. 3 times 1,000. That's 3,000. 1 times 100. 0 times 10 is 0. And then 9 times 1 equals 1. Then you add everything back up to check your work. 24,563,109. All right, so let's go now and look at our next thing. So our next thing is going to be talking about 10 times or 1/10. Remember, moving from left to right is 10 times, and right to left is 1/10. You see I have my examples here that if I'm going from left to right and looking at 300,000, well, I can say that 300,000 is 10 times 30,000. Or if I go the opposite way, and I go from right to left, then I can say that 30,000 is 1/10 of 300,000. And I did not put my other 0 right there. Messed that one up. Now, let's go through and let's look at another example, another scenario, because they can present 10 times or 1/10 to you in a lot of different scenarios. So now, our third example is saying, what if we're looking for 10 times? And let's say that we're trying to find a number that is 10 times this 9 that we have right here. So I'm going to circle that 9. And if we're trying to find something that's 10 times, well, to be 10 times 9, or this 90, it has to be to the left of it. So we underline it, arrow down, and we're saying that the digit must be here to be 10 times. Now, what if we're looking for something that's 1/10? And let's say that we're trying to find something that's 1/10 this 3. So I'm going to circle it. And if it's going to be 1/10, the number has to be to the right of this 3. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to underline it, draw my arrow. Then I'm going to say that the digit must be here to be 1/10. All right, so now let's look at another example. Still looking at it, talking about 10 times of 1/10. Now this time, what if we're trying to compare two different numbers? And let's say that we're trying to compare this 2 to that 2. Well, if I go from this 2, which is on the right, to this 2, which is on the left, then I can say that the 2 in 36,234 is 1/10 the 2 in 82,816. Now, what if I wanted to go the opposite way? And I wanted to go from the 2 in 82,816 and compare it to the 2 that's in 36,234. Well, this time I'll be going from left to right. And since I'm going from left to right, that means that, and I'm going to change the colors here because I've kind of changed a little bit of what we were talking about or how we were comparing. So here I can say that the 2 in 82,816 is 10 times the 2 in 36,234. And so it's dependent on how they're asking you compare from which digit to the next digit. I'm going to go ahead and box both of these. All right, now let's go to the last thing that we talked about and the thing that we talked about yesterday, which is rounding with number lines. Again, I have good information for you to have down here. I have our rules on here on the side, expanded form, boxed around in place, tweeners and number line, arrow over, and I have both of the number lines that we were trying to use, the straight number line or the inverted or the triangle number line. Now remember, these are good rules to follow, especially when you're trying to find midpoints. If you have a tens number line, you're going to count by ones to find the midpoint. A hundreds number line, you're going to count by tens to find the midpoint. Thousands number line, you're going to count by hundreds to find the midpoint. A 10,000s number line, you're going to count by thousands to find the midpoint. 100,000s, well, you're going to count by 10,000s. And millions, you're going to count by 100,000s. So make sure you have all of this written exactly as the way you see it presented to you. So make sure you're going to be economical and efficient with your use of space. So let's look at a couple of examples. So this one, we're going to round 9,231,000 to the nearest million. So the first thing I do, expanded form. 9 million plus 200,000 plus 30,000 plus 1,000. I'm going to box my round in place. Then I'm going to do my tweeners. 9,231,000. I'm going to do my tweeners. Well, one of the nearest millions to 9,231,000 is 9 million. The next million that is near 9,231,000 is 10 million. So now I can make my number line. since I have a millions number line, I'm going to count by millions to find my midpoint. So in the middle will be 9,500,000. Now 231, 9,231,000 is going to be somewhere over here. So 9,231,000. I'm going to circle it. Then I'm going to arrow over. Now I'm going to say that 9,231,000 rounds down to 9 million. All right, we have one last example. Now, this one says that we're going to round 384,221 to the nearest thousand. So, first things first. Do my tweeners. A thousand that is near 384,221 is 384,000. The next thousand that is near 384,221 is 385,000. I'll make my number line. Since I'm making a thousands number line, I'm going to count by hundreds to find my midpoint. 384,500. And so 384,221 would be about right here. So 384,221. Circle it. Arrow over. My answer statement, 384,221 rounds down to 384,000. And that is the end of our summary page. What you're going to be doing next right after this is you're going to be taking the test all over Unit 2. Remember, you can use your summary page to help you with the test. Make sure you bubble in everything. Make sure you head everything properly.